Hi guys, I've decided to put this video together as a furthering of explanatory differentials between somebody that hasn't had an awakening yet and somebody whom has. I've just been going over some messages and such of the past, and empathizing with different perspectives, and it has delivered to me a sort of moment of realization of what is quite a substantial fundamental difference in the psychological evaluation of the self and the outside world perspective after one of these awakenings. And it's the fear itself, of which is linked to somebody's trauma, um, and it arises via undealt with memories of the past. And although it isn't fundamentally linked to potential given scenario situation, the emotions, because they haven't been dealt with, are still there to arise. So it could be a subject that is completely different, but if it still challenges the being of the moment in question, or to do with the given scenario, those undealt with emotions resurface, and that's what causes obviously the psychological instabilities and issues, for the simple fact that they're not dealing with the emotion per se of the moment. They're not nipping it in the bud there and then. They're constantly shelving the emotion and projecting it into the latest and greatest challenge that has been presented before them as a self-growth process. But instead, of course, being a self-growth process, it ends up being a furthering of ego establishment, of self-bolstering, as a coping security measure, implementation of the self. And it's all due to undealt with trauma and fear, basically fear build-ups, fear of the unknown, fear of outside perspectives, fear of not knowing the outcome, which you can't ever fully know. But if you have the faith via enough self-healing, the faith always overpowers the fear. There is no fear anymore. It becomes a life of fearlessness, and righteousness, I suppose, retribution. It also becomes a self-sustained resolution of resolve in that residing, whereby nothing can't be handled or taken on or gone through, and it has no residual residing sustained effect upon your emotional, psychological self capabilities as a human being. So in that, would like to give an example. In the past, before, when I was in PTSD, before my spiritual awakening, and even to certain degrees before then, there was always that fear of the unknown, of dealing with something that you know is in the past and hasn't been dealt with, but you keep shelving it. Oh, it'll be fine, I'll be fine. That's what you convince yourself. You delude yourself, thereby simultaneously creating a egoic plane of residing, an egoic plane of coping mechanism in your everyday, day-to-day life. And of course, we live in a traumatic-ish world. We've got wars and stuff going on, all the rest, which you kind of, again, you shelve. You think, oh well, but consciously it's in there. It's in there, and it's weighing you down, even if it's not affecting you directly per se. You know that it has a global effect, and it will have ripple effects on the world. So as I was saying just before, point being is that after one of these spiritual awakenings, the love that pours through you, through the infinite that you're connected to, and connected to everyone through and via, that empowerment and just washes through you and annihilates basically all fear, all of your traumas. All memory comes back over the given following month or two, afterwards of everything that's happened to you in your life, because your mind is free then to do so, uncluttered by previous experiences, emotional traumas and traumas of the world. So there is no more fear, and there's no more fear can't get to you anymore. There isn't. That it's basically a lesser truth. It's a delusion. It's just undealt with trauma. That's what fear is. It's still fundamentally a survival mechanism, like what the ego is. It's the kind of fundamentals of fight or flight, isn't it? But once you see and have experienced past that veil, there is no going back. It's not a choice. You can't. It's just not in you to come to fear anymore. And so your whole perspective obviously shifts through the experience, as well as expanding outwards and expanding your consciousness and all the rest of the unbelievable goodies that come with a spiritual awakening, a life-changing experience. But point that I was kind of making, and being rather long-winded about it now, is that the fundamentals change, and so there is no fear of outside perspectives. If something comes up and arises that needs to be dealt with, you deal with it, and you deal with it justly, and you don't delude yourself in the process. And the fear that would have been there in the past of kind of insecurities, unsure of outcomes, wrestling with what emotions of the moment may have to be dealt with in order to progress with given scenario of situation. None of that exists anymore. It's not there. It's because it's all fear, and love conquers fear. And so your whole realm of reality changes into a greater truth, a greater know thyself truth, of which can be echoed out into a greater know thy reality, know other people truth in being. And it's that love is the greatest truth, and love delivers the greatest truth. And we all reside within a bandwidth frequency of love, basically. That's our interpretation of it, through this relativity of frequency that we all reside within, that our energies vibrate within, spiraling as they do. So it's just a known. I've learnt this stuff over the last couple of years, just to try and figure it all out, basically, because it's so fucking, excuse my language, but it's so beyond this world that you're drawn to figuring it out. You can't, it's the question, you see, the question that drives us. And so that will always be the case. And I just wanted to make this video to kind of explain the basic fundamentals of your whole being after a spiritual awakening changes, and there is no fear anymore. Don't get me wrong, it's not recklessness or careless. You're not going out there looking, you're not. It's not an instability; it's a stability, effectively. And like I said, there is no more fear at all in facing what needs to be faced, in order to progress and to co-create greater unifications of moment in understandings, and greater awareness, and of both the inner and the outer, and how they're both linked, and that greater realized truth that we all have inside of us, that greater know thyself spark that resides within each and every one of us, and is the whole doorway to extra levels of which deliver their own practical potential in outputting in personal capabilities. So I just wanted to let you guys know that there is no more fear anymore. There really isn't. And after one of these awakenings, your whole life changes, and you don't succumb to previous courses of action of which are self-hindering, because there isn't anything left to hinder you anymore. Love and light be with you, always.